What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am Dial, and I'm here with a show review. Today, we are talking about season 2 of What If, which is now streaming on Disney Plus. I know, I'm late with this one too. I didn't have a chance to review it before the year is over, so I'm just pretty much playing catch up. And I wanted to get my thoughts and opinions on the show out there before we start to transition and talk about Echo. So that's how it's going to be. So let's not waste more time. Let's talk about What If. And I guess I will put a spoiler warning out there because I will possibly talk about some important details of the show. So if you don't want to know anything about the show, I would say go watch it first and then come back and listen to this. But you have been warned. So when it comes to the Marvel shows on Disney Plus, if you guys have been following my channel, you guys know that I am heavily critical on the Marvel shows. There's a majority of them that I just have not enjoyed at all, or I just find them very mediocre. Like, there's not very memorable. Not a lot of the shows that I don't really want to revisit. A lot of them just feel like filler, or they feel like just stuff to pad out the phase. Just to create more content. And it's just very disappointing because this is once again just emphasizing that it feels like Marvel has lost their ways after the end of Phase 3. So I don't know, man. Like, I know that I'm in a minority. I know there's a lot of people that enjoy the Marvel shows, but just for me, the only shows I've really enjoyed was Miss Marvel, which I know not a lot of people watch, but I really enjoyed that. And What If? I thought What If season 1 was actually really good. It probably was probably my favorite for a while. And it's very sad because when I hear people talk about the Marvel shows, like, not a lot of people talk about What If. And I even hear some people say that What If is one of their least favorite Marvel shows, and I have to completely disagree because I honestly think that What If is such a good show because I like how much risk taking they're doing with the with What If, because they're able to play with different concepts, and in the multiverse they're able to play out different scenarios that they weren't able to do in the movies. So it leaves some sort of unpredictability about it, because for a lot of the Marvel movies and shows, a lot of stuff feels predictable, and, like, some choices I just feel like kind of strange for what they were doing for the movies and shows. But, like, with the What If, they're able to play with different scenarios, and even there's some cases where stuff that I was questioning in the movies, they flipped it on its head in What If, and that's just some stuff that I really appreciated about it. So after season 1, of course I was excited to see season 2. That was probably one of my more anticipated shows coming up. And once again, this season 2 felt like it was lost in the shuffle because this was coming out in between Loki season 2 and the newly released Echo. So it just felt like it was just lost in the middle there, which is a shame. But out of the three, of course, What If I was looking forward to the most. Um, you know, I I had high expectations for season 2, but at the same time, I didn't really have specific stuff that I was expecting to see, because that's the great thing about What If. You don't know what direction it was going to go into. Um, so I was open to seeing whatever direction they were going to go into. Like, it could go into many different ways. That's what I love about it. It's unpredictable. So sitting down and watching What If season 2, I gotta say, I once again loved this season. I thought it was absolutely great. And in my opinion, I think it's better than season 1, you know, because, like, even with season 1, there was like a couple of episodes that, that did feel kind of weird. It felt a little bit more filler-ish than the other episodes, and actually there was like probably like one episode that I thought was really really bad in season 1. which was the Thor episode. I did not like that Thor episode in season 1 at all. There wasn't really any episodes like that, you know. Like I felt like every episode was like really interesting, and like it didn't really feel, none of them really felt like filler in my opinion. You know, like all of them felt very very good. So I'm going to briefly talk about each episode one by one. I'll possibly put time steps below if there's a specific episode you're just waiting for me to talk about. You guys could just skip to that, but that's how it's going to go. So the first episode we have what if Nebula joined the Nova Corps. Once again, I'm glad that Nebula is getting more, development because she's slowly becoming one of my favorite characters in the MCU right now, especially after Guardians 3. So, and I did like her episodes that she appeared in season 1 as well. So I'm glad that there's more spotlight put on her. But in this scenario, the Nova Prime recruits Nebula, and and then she joins the Nova Corps after Ronan betrays and kills Thanos. So that's interesting that Ronan is able to defeat Thanos in this timeline. But so Xandar, at the planet that the Nova Corps is at, seals off seals off the planet from the universe because Ronan is trying to invade, and then Nebula discovers from Yondu's arrow thing, because Yondu is dead in this universe as well. Um, and she learns that Yondu located codes to open the shields, and then so Nebula recruits Yon Rog, who was Jude Law's character in Captain Marvel. He was, I guess, technically the villain in that, but he didn't really do that much. I'll be honest. But yeah, I'm surprised to see Yon Rog. So he recruits him to infiltrate the Nova Corps' mainframe to destroy them, and of course, Yon Rog betrays her. And then there's this big twist surprise that the Nova Corps is actually aligning themselves with Ronan to help invade the planet. So pretty much it's Nebula recruiting these other Marvel characters that we've seen, like Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck once again gets a big part in this episode, and I'm glad. And then there's Groot, and then there's Meek, and Korg. So they formed this little group to fend off against the Nova Corps, and that I thought all of that was interesting. Um, I will say that Nebula, I guess I wouldn't say like went through like a major character arc because she relatively feels very similar to how she is like in the main timeline, but just nicer. Um, I would say like I guess to nitpick, I just would have liked to have seen her a little bit more, of how being recruited in the Nova Corps. I wondered how that like really affected her psyche and stuff like that. Like I wish we could have went more into that. It was mainly about her fighting off the Nova Corps because the Nova Corps ends up being evil, and it's like I don't know. That's just really a nitpick. That didn't really bother me, but I just noticed like it's just Nebula being part of the Nova Corps. Like it doesn't really change her as a person really too much. But outside of that, I did think it was interesting to see the Nova Corps Lily betray, the entire planet and aligning with Ronan and stuff like that. Mainly because they know that they aren't powerful enough to fend off Ronan. So that stuff was pretty cool. I think probably the most interesting thing about this episode is Nebula recruiting Howard and Groot, Korg, and Meek to fight off against the Nova Corps. That's probably the most interesting part. Once again, I'm glad to see Howard the Duck more in the MCU. Because I think the MCU's version of Howard the Duck is really really cool. Definitely an improvement from that movie that came out in the 80s. But honestly, at this point, I'll be really open to seeing like a spin-off of Howard the Duck in the MCU. I actually would be interested in seeing that. But and then Korg once again doing his thing. Like Korg. At first, I didn't really like Korg at all, coming off of Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, but slowly I'm starting to warm up to Korg. I think he's a funny character, and it's like, you know, his action scenes, how he's able to mix the humor with the action scenes, I think is pretty good. But yeah, overall, I thought that was a good episode. Next, we have what if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? So in this timeline, Ego actually is able to, take control of Peter Quill when he was a kid, and pretty much Peter becomes an extension of Ego, and then he's going to each planet to assimilate it for him. So so he gets sent to Earth when he's a kid to assimilate the planet for Ego, and this is happening in 1988. So this is when Howard Stark and Peggy Carter was still alive, and so to fight back against Quill, they make their own Avengers, like like a older Avengers, before the ones we see in 2012. Um, but I thought that was really interesting that we're getting like an old school Avengers team up. Like that's really cool. So they appoint Hank Pym, with him being the original Ant-Man, and then they get King T'Chaka, who is the Black Panther during that time, and they get Bill Foster, who is Lawrence Fishburne's character in Ant-Man the Wasp, who is Goliath, and they also recruit Marvel from Captain Marvel, who was kind of like the mentor of Carol, or she kind of was in the first movie. So that was interesting to see that those this team up of Avengers, this old school Avengers. I thought that was really cool. It was cool to see T'Chaka more in action as Black Panther, because I was definitely interested in that. Oh, they also recruited Bucky, who was the Winter Soldier around that time. So that was actually probably the most interesting part of the this lineup, that they got the Winter Soldier in this team. But of course, I guess Russia and America, will put their differences aside, because Quill is such a big threat that they would have have them temporarily make an alliance for that. So um, I honestly expected the Winter Soldier stuff to play a little bit more into the story of that that unpredictability, because you don't know if if Hydra has their own personal mission on the side while they're trying to deal with Peter, but that didn't really happen at all. For the most part, Winter Soldier was with them, so that was okay. That was a genuine surprise, but yeah, it was also cool to see that this young Peter who has superpowers and stuff like that, and just literally leveling different parts of the city and stuff like that. So that was cool seeing that stuff. And what was also surprised was a very young Hope Van Dyne was in this, and she makes a relationship kind of with Peter. Like they kind of build like a friendship and stuff like that. So that was interesting to see as well. Um, and just overall seeing this old school Avengers team work together, that was pretty cool. Um, I did feel like it was kind of redundant that you had Ant-Man and Goliath on the same team. You just have one person growing and one person shrinking. So it's like, I mean, I guess you could use both of them, but it's just like it seems like one person should be able to do both stuff. But once again, they don't really perfect it until modern day. So I guess you would have to have Goliath and Ant-Man there. So that's cool. Marvel, I thought she would have powers then, because I forgot what happened with the events of Captain Marvel. I'm not going to lie, but I thought Marvel had powers, so I thought she was going to have the Captain Marvel powers to fight off against Quill, but that didn't end up being the case. So that was fine, but overall, yeah, I thought this was a pretty interesting episode. And once again, I think I'll be interested in seeing a full on maybe not a movie, it could be a movie, but either a movie or a show of seeing old school Avengers like this. Like I want to see more from this team. I thought that was very interesting. And then Ego does make an appearance in this, and he does have a big action scene against the Avengers. So that was cool to see Ego actually play a part more in this show, because I do think Ego is a very underrated Marvel villain. So I'm glad that he's able to have more to do in this specific episode. But yeah, it was pretty fun. Next, we have what if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? So once again, it's you know, I think they aired What If around the time they did for a reason, because they had the Christmas episode releasing, because it came out in December and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what this is. This is the Christmas episode, and it's pretty much on Christmas Eve. Happy Hogan is assigned to oversee security at Avengers Tower because they're about to have their annual holiday party, and the Avengers are off doing their own thing on different parts of the world. And so, um, Justin Hammer and his goons try to break into Avengers Tower, and Happy Hogan is pretty much trying to stop them, and he's trying to call the Avengers to the tower to stop them as well. But once again, they're not able to instantly go there because he's having a hard time communicating with them, or they're busy doing off whatever they're doing in other parts of the world, and they're thinking whatever's happening at Avengers Tower is not really a big deal. But obviously it is, because it's Justin Hammer trying to take Bruce Banner's blood that they have in their lab. So yeah, it's pretty much one of the lighter episodes. Darcy's in this too, also trying to plan stuff for the holiday party, and so it's pretty much just the both of them trying to stop Hammer, the whole episode. And yeah, it was pretty fun. There's this one part where Hogan gets accidentally injected with Banner's blood, and then he turns into a purple like monster Hulk creature, and there's the running joke of him being called Hulk Hogan. You get it? Because his name is Hogan, and like he's a Hulk. So that was kind of funny, I guess. But yeah, it was a pretty fun episode. It was actually nice to see Justin Hammer again in this universe, because even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Iron Man 2, I did like Justin Hammer in that movie. So I'm glad that he's able to do more in this universe, or this multiverse, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. There was just not too much to say about this episode. It was pretty fun. There was some antics going on in the labs, of course, and it is crazy that Hogan turned into a Hulk monster, which ends up being kind of a recurring thing as the season goes on, because it's not the last time we'll see Hulk Hogan in this. But yeah, it was pretty fun. And of course, the Avengers don't show up until the very end, when Hogan already defeated Hammer. So I figured that stuff was going to happen. So I know it's pretty fun. What I also appreciate about this was giving me like old school Avengers feels, because this is bringing me back to what I liked in Phase 1 with the original Avengers, and even there was some stuff in Avengers Age of Ultron that I liked, as far as the humor and like the chemistry and banter between everyone. So this really felt like an old school MCU episode, So I definitely like that. Next, we have What If Iron Man Crashed into the Grandmaster? So this is the episode that is explaining you know, that the Guardians of the Multiverse, where you had Gamora and Iron Man there. Or I think it was just Gamora in the Guardians of the Multiverse. So because I remember in season 1 they didn't have an episode explaining that that version of Gamora, so they pretty much gave that episode in this season. So I'm glad we're actually going back to break that down. So pretty much after the Battle of New York, when Tony is sending that nuke off into space to blow up the Chitauri army in space, and then of course we saw in the movie that he falls back into the portal back to Earth. So this is a scenario where Stark doesn't get through the portal to get back to Earth, and he actually gets sent to the Grandmaster's world from Thor Ragnarok, and he runs into Gamora. And in this timeline, Gamora and Stark help to defeat Thanos, and then that's why Gamora is wearing Thanos' armor, because she ends up taking over after him. But pretty much it's just like, at first I thought I wasn't going to like this episode, because I'm not a big fan of the Grandmaster from Ragnarok, and it was the majority of the episode was taking place there, and like pretty much Tony is trying to figure out a way to get back home, and of course the Grandmaster's not letting him go home, and the whole episode is Grandmaster making him race in this death race that he has at his his Coliseum or whatever, which gave off a mixture of death race and that race from Spy Kids 3D. Like that's pretty much what this episode was, which I did not expect that. I thought they were going to have Iron Man like fighting the Coliseum and stuff like that because that's what Thor did in Ragnarok. But I mean, it was kind of interesting the whole Mad Max type of racing thing that they were doing in here, but like I don't know, the Grandmaster was really getting on my nerves. He really was. I just don't like that character at all. I like Jeff Goldblum a lot, but just that character was just not working for me. But it was just pretty much the majority of the time was Tony trying to get off of this planet and then making an alliance with Valkyrie and Korg, and then eventually running into Gamora, and he actually convinces Gamora to fight back against Thanos when they eventually get off the planet. So I thought that was pretty interesting, I guess. I like this. I like the suit that Tony makes in this episode. Like it's a giant like suit that transforms into a race car. So and it's powered by his arc reactor. So I thought that stuff was pretty cool. And the over when he's racing in the thing, like the cool techie stuff that he has on his car slash suit, that was pretty cool as well. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about it. I guess what was the big surprise was how Gamora and Iron Man ended up defeating Thanos. So there was like this, there's that melting stunner staff that Grandmaster's assistant had, that whenever they tap somebody with the spear, they melt. Which was very gruesome in this episode. I keep forgetting that that's what that staff does. Like people are literally just melting and dying there. So like that was pretty jarring. But they actually used that to defeat Thanos. So that was a pretty big surprise. And I'm sure there's people that's going to be complaining, man, if Thanos wouldn't just sit there and just let himself get stabbed by that man. Come on, bruh. Yeah, it's the same people that didn't like that when Ultron Vision sliced Thanos in half in the first episode. And I'm just like, these are just different scenarios, guys. Like, you really taking this way too seriously, you know? And once again, you want to buy into the 1 million possibilities that Doctor Strange did in Infinity War, and you're making me believe that there's only one scenario out of the millions of stuff that he saw, there was only one of those possibilities that worked. Come on now. Come on now. Suspend your disbelief a little bit. These are different multiverses, this different timelines. Stuff will play out differently. So get a grip on that. Anyway, episode 5. What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? Now, I have to say, this is probably my favorite episode of all of them. Peggy Carter, or like Captain Carter in this show, I think she's ended up becoming like the face of What If, like they're really making her like prominent in these storylines, or not all of them, but like just like the main storylines, I guess. Like they're really putting her front and center, and I think this is really, really cool. She was one of my favorite parts of season 1. So it was interesting to see her have a more elevated role in this, and we see her in numerous episodes in this season. Um, but yeah, this one's my favorite because like this really feels like because in the first episode, because that was Captain Carter's like first Avengers storyline with Steve having that Hydra Stomper and stuff like that. I really liked that episode, but this one really felt like Captain Carter's Winter Soldier storyline because it plays out very, very much like the Winter Soldier for Captain Carter, and I thought that was really, really good. So we remember in season 1 where the Watcher sent her to a different timeline where Black Widow is, and in modern day, and Captain Carter is working with Shield and with Nick Fury and stuff like that, and like I said, it plays out very similarly to Winter Soldier because Steve, who is the Hydra Stomper, is being mind controlled, and once again, Carter has to figure out a way to get him out of the mind control. But it's actually Hydra did not mind control Steve. It was actually Black Widow's mom from her spin-off movie, which that was a big surprise too. And you see the other Black Widows there as well, fighting along with Black Widow's mother. So what's her name? Melina? Yeah, Melina. Yeah. So that was interesting to see Melina again from her, Black Widow's movie, and seeing her in this role. I thought that was pretty cool. And very similar to the Winter Soldier. Like the action scenes in here are very intense and very well choreographed, and this is animated too. I know people were complaining about, that they didn't like the animation in this, but I personally think the animation's fine. Like it does its job. It doesn't feel cheap, at least in my opinion. And like if they're able to do these really cool visuals and have these really cool fighting choreography, despite of how the animation looks, I think it does its job just fine. And in this episode, once again, I think the fight scenes, the choreography, the set pieces in here, I thought were very well done. And just seeing like the different, the relationship dynamic we see with Carter and Rogers, I think it's very sweet. I think it's very nice. You know, um, as far as love stories in MCU, like there hasn't really been a lot of really good ones, but like this is one of the few like love stories in the MCU that I'm actually getting behind. It's tragic as well, because like the ongoing thing is like you feel like Rogers and Carter can never have like a happy ending, but we did end up seeing a happy ending in Endgame. But like just seeing that Captain Carter is going through that similar tragedy, like it's just very, I'm invested in their journey, invested in their relationship. So that stuff was cool, and it was nice to see Black Widow more. She's once again good. I like Natasha a lot. It's a shame that they had to kill her off, but it's just nice to see her more prominent in this show. Okay, moving on. Okay, this one is very interesting. What if Kahhori reshaped the world? Um, so I have no idea who Kahhori is. I don't know if she's already an established Marvel character from the comics. She probably is, and I'm sure you guys will comment down below who Kahhori is if she does already exist as a character. But this is the first time I'm knowing about this uh, character. So, and this is a Native American story too. So once again, I thought that was interesting. And once again, it's like, what a coincidence, because Echo just released too. So it's like they're putting a little more emphasis on Native American stories. So that's pretty interesting. But anyway, so pretty much after Surtur destroys Asgard during Ragnarok, the Tesseract crash lands in a lake in pre-colonial America, and it gives off some magical properties since it got shattered. I think it got shattered, something like that. But so this Native American girl named Kahhori, like Lily, just stumbles across this lake after getting chased by Spanish conquistadors, and she gets teleported to this other dimension where other Native Americans are harnessing the power of the Tesseract. So they have super speed, they have telekinesis, they're able to do other stuff like that, and she ends up getting the powers as well. But she ends up being trapped in that other dimension for a while, and she's trying to get back to her home because the conquistadors are invading her village and stuff like that, and holding her people hostage. And so she's trying to figure out a way to get back to where she was. But the natives in the other dimension, who got powers, they just ended up making a home there because they gave up on trying to get back home. And Kahhori is trying to convince all of them to get back home so they can help fend off the conquistadors and save their people. So overall, I thought this was very interesting, because once again, I don't know anything about Kahhori as a character. And I thought it was interesting that she's able to get these powers from the Tesseract. This is something that we've seen before in the MCU, that the Tesseract gives certain powers and other weird mystical stuff to the universe when it gets tampered with and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see Kahhori get superpowers from this. It kind of gave me some Miss Marvel vibes a little bit. Not gonna lie. But yeah, I really liked Kahhori as a character. Like she was very driven and determined, and I just really liked. I liked the powers that she had and stuff like that, and I liked her motivation of trying to save her people and like convincing the other natives that got powers. Like I just found that very inspiring too. Um, but yeah, I thought all that was cool, and especially like that 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 other dimension that they were in, that was pretty interesting too, because there was like there's like different creatures in there that had like these crystal things on their back. When they were all running with the giant like creatures and stuff like that, that was a cool scene. Seeing Kahhori use her telekinesis to like use the branches and stuff like that to try to get to the portal up into the sky, and just seeing her learn her powers, that was pretty cool. Honestly, this could have been a movie maybe, or at the very least a show, because like I really see Kahhori getting over as one of those popular characters, and I think this could be very good representation for Native Americans. But I see a lot of potential with them turning this into a movie. I don't know if she'll ever make an appearance in the live action films. I mean, it's a possibility that she could show up maybe in Secret Wars or something like that. But honestly, part of me wishes that they tried to, they took a chance on her and made her own feature length film. Because something like Shang-Chi, who's in my opinion, who was like a D-level character that not a lot of people knew about, but he ended up having a great film. So I don't know. I wish they took a chance on making this into a movie, or at the very least a show. But I'm worried with the show that not a lot of people will watch it, because that was a similar thing that they had with when Miss Marvel came out, because that was a really good show, but not a lot of people watched it, and that was another show that appealed to a different demographic very well. But yeah, I really liked Kahhori in this, and I hope to see more from her. You know. Next we have, what if Hela found the 10 rings? So I'm glad to see Hela more again, because Hela, even though I don't like Ragnarok, I do think she's one of the best villains in the MCU. So I'm glad to see more development from her here. So pretty much, growing weary of Hela's bloodlust in the Nine Realms, as they explain in Ragnarok, Odin, instead of um, putting her in this weird dimension that Odin controls with his mind to keep her, sedated, and for some reason never told Loki or Thor this information. Instead of doing that, she did this. She did the similar thing to what he did to Thor in the first movie, is that he took away Hela's power and casted her out to Earth. And pretty much, with Hela's crown, Odin did like the spell to be like, whoever harnessed the power of Hela must know like peace or mercy or stuff like that, which Hela does not know at all. So he did that to Hela's helmet, and Hela's helmet gets stuck to the ground, and nobody can pick it up unless they know mercy, or it's worthy of the power of Hela and stuff like that. And coincidentally, when Hela gets casted out, she gets casted out to where Wen Wu is, and Wen Wu is the villain from Shang-Chi with the 10 rings. So she runs into him, and they get into a squabble, and but then Wen Wu is trying to convince Hela to join him for his cause, and of course she turns it down at first, and then he ends up imprisoning Hela, and then she ends up escaping with the help of the that little creature with the wings that doesn't have a head, and then eventually the creature leads Hela to Jai. I hope I said her name correctly. That land where that's through the bamboo forest, and like it maneuvers and stuff like that. And then that land where Shang-Chi ended up being in his movie. So Um, JY ends up teaching Hela, uh, you know, what she knows about, the powers and the martial arts and stuff like that. And she also kind of helps Hela to, fight her inner demons a little bit. So she kind of goes through an arc a little bit. I didn't expect that because I was expecting eventually that Hela is going to betray everyone. She's going to take over, everything. She's going to steal the 10 rings and like invade that realm because, it's Hela, the goddess of death. You can't trust her. But like, it was actually refreshing to see that Hela actually turning good by the end, because after she learns the stuff from Jai, um, she ends up fighting Odin. Because Odin's trying to take over that realm too, because he is aware of the 10 rings that Wen Wu has, and so he's trying to take the rings from him. But it turns out that Hela is now stopping Odin from his conquest of taking over the realms, and is trying to liberate all the realms. And so that's when she learns mercy, and that's when she's able to get her helmet back. But then her outfit turns all white, and she overthrows Odin and is now the ruler of Asgard. And so that was a really big surprise. I actually really really liked that. I thought that was very very refreshing. That was unexpected. That was pretty good character growth. So I thought that was really really cool. Moving on, we have what if the Avengers assembled in 1602. So this was also very interesting as well. So at the end of the Captain Carter episode, um, she gets teleported to 1602 by the Scarlet Witch of that timeline, and Captain Carter was sent there to help with incursions that are happening in their world. In this timeline in 1602, Thor, well, actually, Hela is the queen of that realm, I guess, along with Thor and Loki, and Nick Fury is serving her, and Scarlet Witch is serving her and stuff like that, and Happy Hogan is serving her. So that was very interesting. But then an incursion happens and takes away just takes away Hela, and then that's when Thor takes over the throne as king in 1602, and he thinks that's Captain Carter's fault that the incursion happened because she was sent there to stop it, but she didn't. And so Thor is chasing after Captain Carter, and so but Carter's trying to figure out a way to stop the incursion, and so she appoints a team with the Tony Stark of that timeline, who is an inventor, and then Steve Rogers is like a Robin Hoodish character, and along with Scott Lang, who's his assistant, and then Bucky Barnes also is with them too, kind of like a musketeer, and then Bruce Banner as the Hulk is there as well, and he's locked up with the Iron Mask in the castle. So this is very interesting. I thought, to see an Avengers team being recruited in 1602, I gotta say that it is random, but it is pretty creative as well. And just seeing, the whole conflict of them trying to stop these portals and incursions, with Scarlet Witch also trying to help as well, and Nick Fury also trying to help, and Thor is just being so blinded by rage that he's kind of like an obstacle there as well. But yeah, all that stuff was really really cool. Like just seeing this old, really, like I thought the first like original Avengers team that we saw in the Quill episode, I thought that was pretty cool. But like the 1602 Avengers, I thought that was a unique way of showing off a different version of the Avengers as well. But yeah, just seeing this team chemistry, with Steve Rogers being Robin Hood and Tony Stark being the inventor and Bucky as a musketeer, and Scott and Bucky are being musketeers. I thought that was pretty cool. And most importantly, I thought the weapons specifically for that timeline was pretty sick as well. Like there was that sword that Thor has, that channeling his lightning and stuff like that. That was pretty sweet, and the different weapons that Steve Rogers had. But yeah, I just liked all of that. And once again, they are continuing the storyline between Rogers and Carter. That Carter's not able to have Steve in any timeline because of all the stuff that's going on. So once again, just continuing that storyline there, I thought was pretty cool, and it was pretty noble of Carter trying to save that specific timeline, which he didn't need to because the Watcher kept trying to tell her that that timeline was meant to be destroyed and there's not much that they could do about it, but Carter's determined to save them anyway, in regards if Thor is trying to go after her or not. So once again, it's just making Captain Carter like the MVP of What If. So I thought all that was very, very cool. And then the final episode, we have What If Strange Supreme intervened. So after they do end up saving the timeline in 1602, and then Doctor Strange comes in at the end, and we think at first that he's going to help her get back to her own timeline. But then Strange recruits her to help him with because he allegedly is taking all of the multiverse killers and entrapping them in these like glass orbs that he has in his sanctum. And so Strange Supreme is recruiting Carter to stop this one person in this other timeline before he helps her get back to her regular time. And so he sends her to this one world where Kahhori is. And it turns out that the Kahhori is actually not a multiverse killer, obviously, but this is all a trap because Strange Supreme is entrapping not only multiverse killers but like other beings in different multiverses as well, because this is all a scheme for him to once again try to reforge his world that he lost in season 1 and save Christine again. And so it is Captain Carter and Kahhori fighting against Strange Supreme to once again save the multiverse. And it's just like that. I mean, part of me was hoping that Strange Supreme turned 100% good, but I don't know. There was something in the back of my mind that was thinking he probably is still trying to figure out a way to save his world and save Christine because he's just so driven by grief. I don't feel like that fully went away, and obviously it didn't. And I have to say this finale is insane. Like I feel like this is more insane than the finale in season 1 because with the orbs that Strange was entrapping everybody, like all the orbs get like broken, and then you're just seeing all these different multiversal versions of different characters we see in the MCU, like just fighting all over the place. And then seeing Kahhori and Captain Carter working together to fight against Strange Supreme, and of course you see all the trippy, insane magic that they're doing, and it's like the other like multiversal characters that were imprisoned like help Carter and Kahhori by giving them different like weapons, like Hela gave Carter the helmet, and Thor gave him the sword and like all that other stuff, and like they gave him Mjolnir and stuff like that, and they were using all that to fight against Strange Supreme. It was so much chaos going on in that finale. I absolutely loved it. And once again, Strange Supreme is like transforming into this crazy like winged monster looking like a Chernabog or something like that. Like all that, this was this trippy magic fight. Like it was so crazy. It was so insane. I thought it was absolutely great. But yeah, just like they end up defeating Strange Supreme, and they end up helping the other like multiversal characters get back to their timeline. And yeah, so that was pretty much that finale. I thought it was very, very well done. But yeah, overall, this was a very very enjoyable season. I think it was better than the first season. They just keep upping the ante and raising the stakes and getting more creative with the different timelines and scenarios. And once again, this is stuff that I just love to see. I like to see some unpredictability from the MCU, and this is one of the few projects that's given me that. As I said, probably my favorite personally is the Captain Carter episode with the Hydra Stomper. That probably is my personal favorite. If I had to pick a least favorite, and when I say least favorite, I don't think this is bad because none of the episodes are bad in my opinion. But like, it would probably be between. It would probably be the Nebula episode maybe. And once again, yeah, it's not bad. It's just like, I feel like the other episodes just got more creative and more, you know, intense, compared to the Nebula episode. The Nebula episode was fun, but as far as like the creativity and like the unpredictability from the later episodes, I think they just up the ante a little bit more in the other one. So I guess Nebula would tend to be my least favorite, but I enjoyed all the episodes. I think this is great. I can't wait to see what they do for season 3. I think they greenlit season 3. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure they will. I'm hoping they do. But yeah, like, this is honestly one of my favorite installments of Phase 4 and Phase 5, and I hope more people watch this show. If you haven't seen What If, like, I don't know what you're doing watching this first of all, but like, you need to go watch this, like, I think this is a lot of fun, and I think they really take advantage of the multiversal storylines in this. So I will give What If season 2. I will give it an A minus. I think it's great. I think it's very well done. But yeah, those are my thoughts on What If season 2. What did you guys think about it? If you guys watched it, did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? How is it compared to season 1? What's your favorite episode? And what's your least favorite episode? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. So the next installment of the MCU I will be talking about is Echo. I will be doing a live stream for that later in the week, so tune in for that when it comes out. But if you guys enjoyed this review, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified of future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Marvel fans, and I will see you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.